Trump gets his timelines and his geography confused during a speech at the New York Young Republican Club annual gala.
Everybody knows she was the one. She sued ExxonMobil in 2019. Leticia James, in a much-watched legal battle. The end result was that Exxon moved out of New York. How do you think that's a good idea? ExxonMobil, one of the biggest companies in the world, left New York and they went to Dallas. Great job, Leticia. And that's what's happening right now. Businesses are fleeing our country. Businesses are leaving this whole horrible system. They're leaving the state. They're leaving our country. Our country has changed so radically. It's business unfriendly, and they're going to other places.
New York Attorney General Leticia James, Trump said, quote, "You know, as everybody knows, she was the one. She sued ExxonMobil in 2019. The end result was that Exxon moved out of New York. Do you think that's a good idea? ExxonMobil, one of the biggest companies in the world, left New York and then went to Dallas. Great job, Leticia. And that's what's happening right now. Businesses are fleeing our country." As you all know, Dallas is in fact part of the United States, so ExxonMobil hardly fled the country when it moved its headquarters from New York to Texas. However, while I'm willing to presume that Trump knows as much, it seems like it would have been better for the point he was trying to make if Dallas was outside of the US. If you're trying to make a point, and the supporting evidence you present doesn't actually support the point, then you just don't have a point. That wasn't the only time he misspoke, though. In his effort to prove that Leticia James, someone who Trump has obvious reason to be against, is bad for business, bad for New York, bad for her job, just bad, he said that it was her fault that ExxonMobil fled New York. He cites a case from 2019 in which the Attorney General's office sued ExxonMobil for misleading investors about the costs of climate change regulation. New York lost the case, but Trump said that the end result of the lawsuit was that ExxonMobil left the state. But that's not right either. ExxonMobil did move its headquarters from Manhattan to Irving, Texas, which is just outside of Dallas. But it did so in 1989, a full 30 years before 2019. As of this year, its headquarters have been moved again to Spring, Texas, which is just outside of Houston, but that move had been in the works for over a decade. There are plenty of reasons why an oil and gas company would want to exist in Texas and not in New York. The oil and gas industry is here. Houston is the oil and gas capital of the world. Houston has the refineries. Houston is along the Gulf Coast. Texas has plenty of land on which a giant corporation can build its giant headquarters. Our state government is incredibly accommodating to oil and gas companies, too accommodating, some might argue. None of those reasons seem to have much to do with Leticia James. New Jersey, by the way, also sued ExxonMobil and Chevron at around the same time that New York did for issues related to climate impacts. Also, California has an active case against several oil giants, including ExxonMobil, regarding the industry's impact on climate change. Many states that have suits or are exploring suits against oil and gas companies are themselves fossil fuel producing states like Colorado, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Since 2017, state and local governments have filed 20 lawsuits against oil and gas companies specifically regarding climate impacts, including most of the Northeast, Minnesota, Oregon, South Carolina, Hawaii, and even Puerto Rico. All that to say, for Trump to try and pin all of this on Leticia James is nonsensical. We know that, but I guess his supporters don't. It's a little bewildering how Republicans, particularly Trump, have convinced Americans that business interests take top priority over literally everything else, even if it means that the air we breathe and the water we drink becomes toxic. Of course, this should come as no surprise. This is one area where Trump has always been consistent. During his single term in office, his administration rolled back or attempted to roll back over 100 rules and regulations regarding the environment. He made a climate denier the head of the Environmental Protection Agency, and he installed several oil and gas lobbyists among its ranks. He proposed a budget that cut the EPA's funding by 30%, and he wanted to essentially eliminate its research and development division. He wanted to drill in protected lands and national parks. He auctioned off millions of acres of public land to the oil and gas industry, and he wanted to bring back coal. All of this was done in the name of business. He wanted to deregulate the energy industry because regulations are bad for business. And I'm not arguing that point. Regulations are bad for the bottom line, but that doesn't mean that they're not necessary and important. Trump and those like him assume the bottom line is the only thing that ever matters, and they protect it and empower it at any and all costs because that is the American capitalist way. And apparently Leticia James is a horrible person for having the audacity to try and hold these companies accountable for their destructive operations. All right, that's it for me. If you got anything out of this, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and check out my podcast, Modern Context. I have a new episode out right now. Thanks.